In June 2014, a highway worker mowing grass in the small town of Geneva, Wisconsin, stumbled upon a horrifying sight: two large suitcases, abandoned in the tall grass. Inside were the remains of two women, tightly bound and hidden for years. What began as a gruesome discovery would soon unravel a chilling truth. The man responsible was not a nameless monster hiding in the shadows, but someone once sworn to protect. Because sometimes the most terrifying predators don't prowl the night, they walk among us, smiling, helpful, seemingly harmless. How did a former police officer turned security guard become a calculated killer? Today, we unravel the case of Steven Zellick, a man who hid behind uniforms and usernames, while two women lost their lives in silence. This is a story of manipulation, deception, and justice delayed. This case shocked the quiet Midwestern communities of Wisconsin and Minnesota, leaving neighbors stunned, families broken, and the internet questioning the hidden dangers of online encounters. Let's start by honoring the victims, two young women who never imagined their quest for connection would end so tragically. Jenny Gamez was just 19 years old when she vanished. Born in California and raised in Cottage Grove, Oregon, she had a difficult upbringing, placed in foster care after losing her mother to substance abuse. As a teenager, Jenny faced her own struggles with addiction, but she was beginning to turn her life around. She had enrolled in college, started focusing on her future, and was known for her bright smile, intelligence, and big dreams. In 2012, while exploring online communities, she encountered Steven Zellick, who was using one of his many aliases. That digital connection would lead to a deadly, real-world encounter. Laura Simonson was a 37-year-old mother of 7 from Farmington, Minnesota. Her life hadn't been easy. She struggled in mental health issues. She was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and had episodes of homelessness. Still, those who knew her say she had a big heart. After her divorce, Laura longed for a relationship, someone who could understand her. Her sadness led her to the internet, specifically websites that catered to BDSM and other niche communities. It was there that she met Steven Zellick. Stephen Mark Zellick was born on October 29, 1961, and raised in the Milwaukee area. To most, he seemed ordinary, quiet, polite, and unassuming. He lived in West Allis, Wisconsin, a suburban community where neighbors trusted each other, and even more so, their local police. In the late 1980s, Zellick joined the West Allis Police Department, and for over a decade wore the badge of public trust. But behind the uniform, something darker simmered. In 2001, Zellick resigned under suspicious circumstances after multiple complaints of disturbing behavior, including stalking and allegedly handcuffing women without cause. Though no charges were ever filed, the allegations were serious enough to end his law enforcement career. After his resignation, Zellick became a licensed private security guard, still in a position of authority, but now with far less oversight. To his neighbors, he remained quiet and kept to himself. But online, he lived a very different life. Zellick was deeply active in BDSM chat rooms and fetish forums, where he portrayed himself as a master seeking submissive women. Using various aliases like Mr. Handsome, Wolf, and his favorite, Mr. Handcuff, he wasn't just looking for casual encounters. He was seeking complete control, and tragically, that obsession with domination would turn deadly. In 2012, 19-year-old Jenny Gamez agreed to meet Steven Zellick in person after weeks of chatting online. Zellick invited her to Wisconsin and personally picked her up at the airport. From there, they went on a hotel in Kenosha. They engaged in sexual activity in the hotel, part of which involved BDSM, a practice Jenny might not have fully understood the risk of. According to Zellick, the encounter took a fatal turn. He claimed that he accidentally killed her during their activities, although investigators questioned the nature of that accident. What Zellick did next is haunting. Rather than calling the authorities, he placed Jenny's lifeless body in her own suitcase. He then took it home to his apartment in West Alleys, where he stored her body inside his refrigerator for months. In November 2013, the same tragic fate would befall 37-year-old Laura Simonson. She and Zellick had also connected through BDSM forums and arranged to meet in person. They checked into a hotel in Rochester, Minnesota. What happened next is based on Zellick's own confession. Like with Jenny, Zellick restrained her with handcuffs and other bondage tools. He later told police she died during their encounter. Instead of seeking help, he placed her body in another suitcase and brought it back home, where both Jenny and Laura's remains would be kept hidden in his apartment for some time. By mid-2014, Stephen Zellick still had both suitcases, containing the remains of Jenny Gamez and Laura Simonson, hidden inside his apartment. But even he seemed to know he couldn't keep them concealed forever. In June 2014, fearing discovery, he loaded the suitcases into his vehicle and drove nearly 50 miles west of Milwaukee to a secluded road in the small town of Geneva, Wisconsin. There, he dumped them in tall grass off the roadside, believing perhaps that he had finally buried his secrets for good. Then, in a chilling twist of fate, just days after the suitcases were dumped, on June 5, 2014, a highway worker mowing grass along a rural road in Geneva, Wisconsin, spotted the abandoned luggage and called it in. What investigators found inside was nothing short of a nightmare: the remains of two women, bound with ropes, folded tightly into fetal positions, and severely decomposed. It was a discovery that would shock the quiet community and spark a nationwide investigation. The grisly discovery triggered a wide-reaching forensic investigation and digital manhunt.
We're coming up on the story on Live at 6. In the meantime, new information on the two bodies found in suitcases in Walworth County last week.
The medical examiner reports both victims were females.
But there is still no word on who they were and how they died.
Samara Sotos reports.
The autopsy results are in, and police here in the town of Geneva are being tight-lipped about them. Geneva police now say there were two females inside the suitcases left abandoned on the side of North Como Road. One, they say, is an adult. The other also appears to be an adult, but they're not totally sure until they investigate more. The police chief would not talk about any other details of the case, like how long the bodies may have been in the suitcases and how they may have died.
One of the victims, Laura Simonson, was identified relatively quickly. Her DNA and a missing persons report filed by her mother in November 2013 led investigators to her identity. Dental records were used to confirm the match. But identifying the second woman proved far more difficult. DNA testing yielded no immediate results, and with no missing persons report to link her to, investigators turned to dental records and released a composite forensic sketch to the public. The haunting image quickly went viral, shared across news outlets and social media. Eventually, someone recognized her. It was Jenny Gamez, a 19-year-old from Cottage Grove, Oregon, who had been out of contact since 2012. Her identification brought some long-awaited answers, but also reopened deep wounds for her loved ones, who had feared the worst but never stopped hoping. As investigators dug deeper, digital footprints and online chat histories pointed them to one man, Stephen Zellick, and soon after, he was arrested. Geneva is a peaceful, close-knit town, known for fishing and farming than forensic investigations. When the news rocked their town and surrounded communities, the entire community was left shaken. The town, known for its quiet nature and rural charm, was suddenly the center of a nationwide crime story. For weeks, people locked their doors, eyed their neighbors with suspicion, and followed the case obsessively. Meanwhile, in West Alleys, Stephen Zellick's home became the center of media storm. His quiet residential street, lined with modest homes and trimmed lawns, was suddenly swarming with investigators and reporters. Many neighbors admitted they barely knew Zellick. Some said he kept to himself. A few reported odd smells coming from his apartment, but never imagined it could be linked to something so sinister. What made the case more disturbing was not just what Zellick did, but who he used to be. A former police officer, a man once trusted to protect and serve. For many, that betrayal of trust cut just as deep as the crimes themselves. With growing forensic evidence and a digital trail tying him to both victims, it didn't take long for authorities to track down the man behind the suitcases.
Crime Watch this morning, a former West Allis police officer, 52-year-old Stephen Zellick, is arrested in connection with two bodies found in suitcases in Walworth County earlier this month. One of the victims has been identified as 37-year-old Laura Simonson from Minnesota. Investigators also released a sketch of what the other victim may have looked like. Police carried out evidence in brown bags from Zellick's apartment. They also brought out bigger things, like a refrigerator. Neighbors say they knew very little about Zellick.
Very quiet. He comes in the he leaves in the morning, and I don't think he drives a car because he leaves from the front door.
Never would say hi or anything like that, just would go into his apartment and come out.
On June 25, 2014, less than a month after the grim discovery, Stephen Zellick was arrested at his apartment in West Alleys, Wisconsin. During questioning, Zellick confessed. He admitted to meeting both Jenny Gamez and Laura Simonson through BDSM websites, arranging to meet them in person and taking them to hotel rooms where he restrained them. He claimed that both deaths were accidental, but investigators and the public found that hard to believe. His actions told a far darker story. He didn't call for help. He didn't notify authorities. Instead, he hid the bodies, stuffed them into suitcases, and in Jenny's case, even kept her body in his refrigerator for months. These were not the choices of a man caught in a tragic accident. They were the calculated moves of someone desperate to hide the truth.
Sentencing handed down in Kenosha County for a former West Allis police officer convicted of killing a woman, then dumping her body along a Walworth County highway. Stephen Zellick is sentenced to 35 years in prison.
Prosecutors say that Zellick lured the 19-year-old from Oregon, killed her during sex, and then stuffed her body in a suitcase.
Michelle Fiore has our coverage from Kenosha County.
Charles and Shannon, well, Stephen Zellick sat emotionless throughout much of the sentencing today. He did offer up an apology, though, saying the victim, Jenny Gamez, was a good person. The state called Zellick a predator looking for the most vulnerable in society. A 19-year-old Oregon college student, Jenny Gamez grew up in foster care and dreamed of being a social worker.
Those goals she had, those passions, are gone at the hands of this defendant.
Zellick has maintained all along that her death was accidental.
If there was anything, if I could undo that, that would be the most important thing I would do. It was not an intentional act.
Zellick pleaded guilty to first-degree intentional homicide and to stuffing her body in a suitcase, then storing it in his refrigerator for a time, then in a suitcase, later discarded near Lake Geneva.
This is a person who has refused to take real responsibility for being the predator that he is.
In this case, Zellick was sentenced to 35 years in prison for the reckless homicide charge and 3 years in prison for hiding a corpse. They'll be served at the same time.
In 2016, he pleaded guilty to first-degree reckless homicide in the death of Laura Simonson and was sentenced to 35 years. He later received an additional 25 years for Jenny Gamez's death. He is now serving 60 years in prison, a sentence that ensures he will likely never walk free again. The courtroom was filled with grief and anger. Jenny's foster mother and Laura's family spoke of lives lost, of missed birthdays, and of futures stolen. The judge called Zellick's actions not only criminal, but deeply disturbing. This story is more than a twisted crime. It's a reminder of the deep cracks that exist in our systems. Jenny Gamez, a teenager who aged out of foster care, disappeared without anyone noticing for years. Laura Simonson, living with mental illness, trusted the ring person in a moment of vulnerability. And then there's Zelik, a former police officer who exploited online communities and the silence of two women. He lived an unremarkable life by day, hiding his darkest urges behind anonymity and charm. As we explore this dark chapter, it's crucial to remember the importance of awareness and caution, especially in the digital age, where meeting people online has become part of modern relationships. Today, Zelik is behind bars, but the haunting truth remains. Evil can wear a badge. It can live next door. It can smile and wave and still carry monsters inside. Jenny and Laura deserved more than what the world can give them, but in remembering their stories, we give them a voice one last time, and in telling their story, we honor their memory. And we remind ourselves, justice may come late, but it must come, and silence can be deadly. Thank you for joining me on this journey through another case. Remember, the stories we cover aren't just tales of mystery. They are real lives impacted by tragedy. If you found this case insightful, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more deep dive into true crime. Stay safe, stay aware, and remember, sometimes the darkest places can be closer than we think. Until next time.